And now we make ourselves available to each of you for your questions and curiosities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryok. How are you?
We are delighted and excited to be able to have this interaction with you. And how are you this day?
Very, very interested in how this is going to go because of how intense things have been around the world. So
Yeah.
start with the first
We'll
question.
describe it like this. Right now, it's as if your species is collectively popping a pimple. There's a great deal of pressure being applied on the subconscious level where many of these negative energies are housed. And that pressure, in a sense, consolidates all of the negative energy. So it appears to be stronger. It appears to be larger. But the reason that's happening is so that energy can get vented. And that's what is occurring now. There is a type of purging. There is a type of venting that is taking place. There's only so much negative energy to transform. It's not infinite. So you're all moving through that right now, and some of your major world events are reflecting that idea of great levels of psychic tension and pressure that have built, that are now being expressed. They're now being vented. They're now being released. And the idea is all of you with your collective energy are guiding how those events unfold. Yes, there is tragedy. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there is suffering. These are dimensions of this process because those are dimensions of what you call negative modes of expression. So those things are a part of this type of purging, this type of venting. And even though you may be experiencing on different levels, pain, suffering, discomfort, so on and so forth, those things don't become negative things until you choose to react to them negatively. You can observe pain. You can observe suffering. You can observe discomfort. And should you interact with those dimensions of life from a place of compassion, from a place of love, from a place of peace, then you will be using those energies in positive ways that are uplifting. And that is actually how you transform this negative energy that's being vented. You do not transform negative energy through judging it, or through trying to repress it, or through trying to deny it, for those are negative actions. They will only reinforce the negativity. It will get louder. It will get bigger. It will get even more in your face if that is how the negative energy is treated. To dissolve the negative energy, to transform the negative energy, what is required is that you shine the light of your heart upon it. Think of the negative energy as ice. Your heart, your love, your compassion, your peace, your loving attention is the sun. And as it shines onto the negative energies, it begins to melt the ice and it transforms it into steam, into energy that can then be used in all types of different creative ways. So that's a little bit about why you're experiencing the idea of this global intensity. It's like you're popping that pimple, so to say. And yes, it could be a little painful. Yes, there can be elements of suffering. Yes, there can be elements of destruction. But those things do not have to define your experience. You get to define your experience no matter how big the external challenge seems to be. So we thank you for receiving that.
Wow, I think that answers a lot of questions already. And a lot of people needed that. I think I do.
Yes.
So much for that.
You're welcome. We are referring here to the situation in Ukraine, of course, but this is not the only situation that in many ways is included in what we have described here. As you know, there are many world events taking place, many gradations of psychic pressures being released and purged. So you're all experiencing this in different ways in your lives. And the idea is the more you address those things from a place of love, from a place of openness, and from a place of empowerment, the more rapid the positive transformational process is.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah.
So our first question, please describe the true nature of the one or all that is not. How does it compare to the idea of non-existence?
To you, it would appear to be the exact same as non-existence, but it's technically not non-existence because non-existence does not exist. However, if you were to experience what you call the one, your consciousness would completely change. Because in order to experience the one, you have to merge with the one. You have to dissolve the self. And that's how the one creates the experience of having no experience. Through acting as a type of dissolving agent, it will dissolve the ego filter of whatever form of consciousness attempts to interact with it. And through that dissolution of ego, there is a type of death process that takes place on the consciousness level. And that then facilitates the idea of a rebirth into something new, into a new perspective, or into a new form of life form expression. So there's all types of things that can happen when one merges with the one. But when one merges with the one, there will only be the one. The small self dissolves in the presence of that level. And that's why it is oftentimes equivocated to non-existence, because it, in a sense, will break down your sense of individuality completely. And when that happens, because the individuality creates a sense of separation, the separation also disperses, and you have both all experiences and no experiences at the same time. It translates as a bit of a paradoxical type of experience. But that's the nature of the one. There's many names for it. The Ein, Shiva, Wuji. There are many different names for this level, but it is seen primarily as the highest level you can go to. It is so high that there really is no room for there to be another self in its presence. All things become it in its presence, and paradoxically, all things appear to no longer exist when one is in its presence. So, have fun playing around with that.
I continue to have dreams that involve snakes, sharks, spiders, alligators, crocodiles, and bears. They typically involve fear where I narrowly escape them killing me or me having to tiptoe around. Can you please explain this for me? Thank you.
Yes, in general, these animals have to do with survival instincts. They have to do with fear-based belief systems. And they have to do with the idea of you moving through different rites of passage within your life path that have to do with overcoming what you would consider to be psychic conflict, psychic violence, psychic war. What we mean is the following. You can, within your own consciousness, create energetic programs that manifest as war. You can create psychic programs that manifest as violence. You can create psychic programs that manifest as fear. And these types of patterns will inform your conscious mind, and they will inform how you relate to the world around you. So when you're experiencing these types of animals in your dreams, and there is an element of fear, there is an element of survival, what they oftentimes are reflecting back to you are those underlying energetic patterns that you have created. You oftentimes will describe these things as negative belief systems. To us, they appear to be vibrating patterns of discordant geometries. So the key is to identify the underlying emotional energies and themes that are present when you observe your recollection of those more fear-based dream experiences. So when you review the dream experiences, take notes. What types of emotions do you feel? What types of themes are present? Negative themes that you notice in the dreams. Become as descriptive as you can. And then the idea is, once you have made a list of the things that you feel are being revealed to you through the dreams, you can then one by one release each of them. Let's say, for example, you are holding on to patterns that create what you would describe as the experience of war. We're just using that because it is rather a hot topic right now. So let's say you find negative belief systems within you that are connected to that. The idea is from here to inhale. And as you exhale and bring your hands down the front channel, see black smoke descending down through your body, out through your feet, deep into the earth. Guide the black smoke down to the earth's center with your hands. And as you send the black smoke down, place into it through your will, through your intention, whatever qualities you wish to release. That could be attachment to war. That could be attachment to self-sabotage. That could be attachment to fear-based projections. Whatever it is you feel those dreams are communicating to you as emotions or themes that you're holding on to. Place those things in the black smoke and release them. Every time you inhale your arms up the sides, smile and think of love. And every time you exhale and bring your hands down the front, think of the black smoke and place inside of it whatever you wish to release. Do at least 10 breaths for each of the qualities that you identify. And you don't have to do this for hours. Start for just 10 minutes a day. Spend time just releasing these things. What you'll find is at the end of just one of these sessions, you will feel lighter because you're letting go of those underlying energetic geometries that you describe as negative belief systems. This is how you bypass, in a sense, the mental identification level, and you go right to the energetic level. That's more fundamental than the actual linguistic dimensions of the belief system. The underlying geometries, the underlying energies, those are what generate the belief systems. So if you dissolve the geometry itself, the belief system will naturally crumble. So that's a way you can detoxify yourselves of the qualities that you identify as you review those dream experiences that you have had.
Nice. Next question. Could you explain the meaning and use of the Lemurian symbol Tau, which was shaped like a T? I had a dream in which it appeared.
Well, it's not necessarily connected to Lemuria directly. It actually connects more to what you would describe as the Middle East in particular. However, what we will say is the following. It represents a symbol of tremendous earth-based power. It is a symbol that in many ways can be said to represent the human body. And when you assume that type of posture representing the Tao cross in that way, it roots you, it connects you through bringing your feet together, hands up, shoulder length with palms down. You end up projecting a great deal of energy down into the earth. So in terms of posture, it represents a power posture. It represents the idea of channeling your body's energy downwardly. As a symbol, it also represents the idea of tremendous power for material manifestation. There are other dimensions to this as well. In particular, it has a heart opening, a heart expansion type of effect that is also connected to it. But these are some dimensions. There's much more to this than what we're saying, but right now that's really the most we can give about it. If you are interested in learning more of this, it may behoove you to study what you would describe as the Jewish Cábala. There's a strong connection to that system in particular if you wish to understand more about the nuances of that particular symbol.
I built a foot-tall cylindrical spiral with copper wire, like a chimney. I put 20 small mirrors on the wire facing inside and quartz at the center. How to activate this vortex? It feels asleep.
Yes. Well, the idea is to charge the device, the structure, with energy. So you can use your hands here, clap the hands, rub them warm. You can massage with your thumbs the palm centers, and you can press with your nails the finger pads. This activates all of the major and minor chakras in the hands. Hold the hands over the device. In general, golden energy will really activate this in powerful ways. So think of the sun. Think of the sun in your chest, in your heart center, radiating golden light. inhale and pull the golden light down the arms to the hands. And as you exhale, see your device becoming saturated in golden light. Do 10 breaths, 20 breaths, 30 breaths, 40 breaths, 50 breaths. Do as many breaths as you can handle. And once you really have pushed yourself and you feel like you're at that point of needing to rest, then go into a deep state of love, a deep state of joy, a deep state of ecstasy. Use that moment of near exhaustion to summon forth a bliss state. You'll find the veil is very thin in that moment, so you can call upon altered states rather quickly. And then from here, speak your will into the structure, into the device. Give it programs you wish for it to take on. Whatever programs you give it, make sure they are all unified. Don't give it too many different programs that contradict or disperse the energy. Think of a primary program and then speak that program into the light that you have charged this structure with. And that will activate it. And each day, charge it in this way. And then after about a week, you will find it holds the charge with great ease. You won't have to charge it as much. It will remain active. And then all you have to do is interact with it psychically. That will recharge it. And it will also allow for you to have all types of mystical and insightful experiences with the device that you have created.
In the avian acceleration session, you said that the blue avians are related to solar deity Ra. Then are they also related to the channeling raw material, law of one? And what density beings are they?
Yes, there is a connection here. Absolutely. So what you call the law of one is connected to the solar Egyptian deity you call Ra. And yes, in many ways, what you describe as blue avian beings are associated with Ra. They are also associated with Horus, and they are also associated with what have been described as the bird tribes that are a part of different Native American traditions. In terms of their density, they occupy primarily a different range of density levels. In terms of, we will talk about it like this, the lowest level of avian consciousness, it is fourth density. There are some avian-like species that exist in more of a quasi-physical state, such as us. They are more upper fourth density. And the highest level we have observed within the avian species is what we would describe as seventh density. So there is sort of a range. There is a frequency range that represents the different densities of consciousness that are available to beings that choose to express as these types of avian creatures and extra dimensionals.
Could you speak on your perspective of the Campbell frog medicine in regards to cleansing and purifying the body and its subtle energy systems?
Yes, well, the idea is that when you take in this type of material, which is toxic, it in many ways triggers the metabolic functionings of your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your digestive system, your lymphatic system. It tells the body something toxic has entered. So the body's detoxification mechanisms upregulate, they turn on, and the body starts to deeply purge toxic reservoirs that contain different impurities that the system has accumulated. So think of it as a jumpstart for your own detoxification process. It also has within it different types of immunological compounds that are inherently anti-pathogenic in nature. So there is sort of a cleansing phenomenon that also takes place as well in relationship to pathogen elimination. That's also a dimension of this as well. Most of this has been validated as well through different types of research studies that have been done on what you call Cómo. In relationship to the energetic system, it primarily triggers what you would call the root chakra, the navel or sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. These four are turned on because of the detoxification effect. Those chakras govern what you would call your digestive organs and your detoxification organs. So those are the energy centers that are most stimulated by the idea of this particular indigenous substance that comes from the frog kind. There are subtle activations as well that take place on the upper centers, but they're not as pronounced as the activations that take place in the lower ones.
What can I do to heal adrenal gland fatigue?
Change the food you're eating. Most of your chronic fatigue as a people comes from the idea of eating things you have not evolved to eat, eating unnatural diets. This will create a low level or a moderate to high level of inflammation in the body. And because the body exists in a state of constant inflammation, the body thinks it's dying. So it produces adrenaline as a side effect of being in perpetual fight or flight. And that's what then depletes the adrenal glands. It all comes down to inflammation. If you are eating diets that are abundant in grain, if you are eating diets that are abundant in sugars, if you are eating diets that are abundant in leafy plants, if you are eating diets that are abundant in different types of, you could say, plant materials that humans are not designed to be eating, and if you are eating a diet that is abundant in refined vegetable oils such as soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, even olive oil, then you are contributing to inflammation in the system. In terms of plant materials, fruit is the least toxic part of a plant. It is the easiest to digest. So these are some things to pay attention to. Most imbalances that are a part of what you call chronic fatigue, brain fog, and other types of metabolic dysfunctionings have to do primarily with diet. When the diet is out of balance, an individual becomes more emotionally sensitive. And that then leads to individuals becoming triggered by little things and feeling extra susceptible to stress. So if you eat an evolutionarily appropriate diet, you will find all systems return to a more natural baseline. You will find you develop mental emotional resilience, and you will find that you have increased energy. So begin with the food you're eating. A way to kickstart this process is to engage in what you would describe as breathing exercises. Allow for yourself to engage in what is described as pranayama or yogic breathing. And you can manually, with the breath, sedate and relax the body, and you can actually shut off the fight or flight mechanism, and that will help to improve energy levels. So look into exercises such as box breathing, something like this, that will allow for you to use the breath to control the nervous system. And from here, you can deactivate the fight or flight, and that will start to give you energy right off the bat. And then reinforce that by making dietary changes that ultimately benefit the system, rejuvenate and regenerate the system, and keep the system at a healthy baseline. These are the things we would suggest. None of this is medical advice. We are not doctors, so you're responsible for what you do with this information. Please be safe.
What archetype or pattern of energy is represented by Russia and Vladimir Putin in the current war in Ukraine?
Please repeat this question one more time.
What archetype or pattern of energy is represented by Russia and Vladimir Putin in the current war in Ukraine?
All right, well, one that stands out is the conqueror, which is pretty obvious, but that's one quality that stands out here archetypally. There are others, of course, that are, you could say, more down to earth. There is the idea of victim and oppressor archetypes that are taking place, although those are a little bit more, you could say, superficial in nature. The underlying archetype that they are embodying represents the energy of the conqueror. And this again is coming to the surface so that energy can be purged, so that energy can be transformed. Because the energy of the conqueror can be expressed in both positive and negative ways. The conqueror expressed in a positive way translates into what you would describe as the archetype of the knight, who ventures into foreign lands in search of treasure, whom goes on the hero's journey. But when that archetype of the knight is expressed negatively, it expresses as the conqueror, one who goes into new lands, specifically to pillage, specifically to take. And that comes from a place of lack. That comes from a place of hurt. That's what engenders that negative archetypal expression of what you would describe as the conqueror. So a lot of this has to do with the idea of resource accumulation. Some of these resources are natural resources. Some of these resources are territorial resources. But that's one of the reasons for this particular conflict. It has to do with an attempt to allocate different resources, some of them known, some of them unknown. So that's coming from the negative expression of what you would call the shadow of the knight, the conqueror archetype.
What do I do to heal and ascend without pain and unhappiness, and heal my heart and have the sense of stability?
All right. We're going to say this bluntly. There will be pain on your journey. There will be discomfort on your journey. Don't try to push those things away, or you will end up attracting more of them to you. The attempt to push those things away creates those things. What actually grants you peace, what actually grants you lightness and levity in your process is allowing those things to be there, the things that feel uncomfortable, without you attempting to shun them. And from that place of allowance, you can then begin to apply an attitude of compassion and love towards those dimensions of pain, towards those dimensions of suffering. And once you have chosen to address and observe those things from a place of love, from a place of compassion, those things will no longer hold you back. Those things will not even be experienced as negative things. You will see them as objects of love, as objects of compassion, as objects of peace. So it is your choice to relate to all dimensions of yourself in a positive way that allows for you to have less pain on the journey, that allows for you to suffer less on the journey, and allows for you to maintain positive states of being with greater ease on the journey. But an attempt to avoid pain and suffering will only summon more of it to you. So see those dimensions of pain and as suffering as invitations to open the heart, just as you have said, and to then shine that heart, love, and compassion onto those things. Include them in your process, and they will start to transform. Just like we said at the beginning of the transmission, the negativity, the pain, the suffering is like an ice wall. So when you open the heart and shine its light upon the ice begins to melt. The ice transforms to steam. The steam is usable energy you can apply creatively in your life. So don't avoid, embrace, and choose to open the heart and use that heart energy as the underlying momentum behind your embracing. And that will naturally transform whatever uncomfortable qualities emerge. The idea is every quality is a teacher. Pain can teach you things. Sadness can teach you things. Anger can teach you things. Spite can teach you things. All things are your teachers. That doesn't mean you have to stay in those places. That doesn't mean you have to express those energies in negative ways. That simply means include them in your process, interact with them from a place of love, and you will receive secret teachings from them that assist you in understanding more of yourself and how to be more of yourself in your life. But if you try to push those things away, you are, in a sense, robbing yourself of an education. You are robbing yourself of experiences that are designed to enrich you. So, you are in the Earth School. Learn as much as you can. All things can teach you. Some of the most powerful lessons you will ever learn come from interactions with the levels and experiences that perhaps represent the last thing you want to experience. Because those types of interactions are very powerful. And in many ways, they represent large-scale challenge. So when you go through those things and you stay in that loving state, it is like you have overcome a great challenge. And with that overcoming of a great challenge comes great experience, comes great wisdom, comes great knowledge, comes great understanding. But if you simply stay in your comfort zone, you're not really learning. You're not really growing. You're just, in a sense, regurgitating the same cycle of comfort again and again and again. Do not be bound by your comfort zone, or your comfort zone will become a coffin. So do not push away challenge. Do not push away negativity. Use your heart to respond in a loving, positive way, and your comfort zone will not bind you. Instead, all of life will be your comfort zone, even if you feel uncomfortable. That's the paradox.
Nice. You said the Lemurians were great manifestors, and they did this through giving instructions. Can you elaborate on what type of instructions and to whom?
They were given different techniques and protocols from extra-dimensional beings that pertain to the stellar realms. And these beings transmitted a great deal of psychic technologies, techniques, and rituals to the Lemurian people that they were then able to perform and explore and create in their physical reality experience, which enabled them to summon forth all types of different experiences. And these types of instructions related to the how-to of that manifestation process were taught and were commonly shared amongst the members of that civilization. They represent in many ways a unified magical or mystical civilization. Similar to Atlantis, but Atlantis became more technologically oriented and became more materialistically obsessed, where the Lemurians used those manifestational technologies and instructions to be able to create a variety of different things. Some of those things material, many of those things spiritual. They use it to enrich themselves holistically. So these techniques have to do with creating geometric patterns made of subtle energy, charging these geometric patterns with different intoned words and phrases. And this would activate the multidimensional nature of the geometric pattern, allowing for the geometry to act as a portal where specific things, specific realities could be summoned through it. They would do this in many ways that encompass the directional energies, left, right, up, down, front, and back, opening these portals in many directions and pulling through them different qualities of energy that would reinforce and support desired manifestation experiences. And there's much more to this, of course, than what we're saying, because to say all of it would be exhaustive. However, this is in many ways the foundation of what types of instructions these beings received. And then through opening these types of portals and pulling realities through the portals into the space, different types of insights, understandings, and new ways of doing things were able to be instantaneously realized by the Lemurians. And this is how they expanded their culture in rapid ways. And it's how they advanced their many forms of expression in relationship to music, arts, and technology.
So I read this article about an ancient space ark buried in Ukraine where Russia is invading, and the space ark is said to be activating and is predicted to eventually begin flying into the air. Are you able to comment on this?
Not really. What we will say is the following. Scan into it yourself. There are all types of claims that people on your internet culture make. So scan into that reality. See if you get a psychic hit. See if you feel any resonance. See if you feel any activations. Because there are certain claims that are made, yes, that are legitimate. And other claims are simply people presenting ideas that perhaps they have downloaded from the astral realm. However, astral realm information is like dream world information. It's not always literal. Oftentimes it is symbolic. So when clairvoyants scan into these areas and they see a space arc underground, that does not always mean there is an actual space arc under the earth or under the sea. What it may be referring to is the idea of a vast amount of psychic energies that are designed to activate your people being released, aka rising up and flying. It represents as a symbol the idea of deep wisdom, deep information, deep knowledge, deep memory stored within the earth being activated through all of this energetic momentum and movement. And that energy then leaves its underground, you could say, home, and it begins to rise vibrationally and in terms of elevation. And it makes its way into the upper levels of your atmosphere where it accesses your species' collective consciousness, and it then transmits to each and every single person. So there's many different ways of looking at this. It's all right for things to be symbolic. That doesn't mean they're not powerful. And sometimes the symbolic meaning will serve you in ways that are more powerful than the actual literal meaning. And many clairvoyants on your planet will interpret things from the astral in a literal way. And this is where you get all types of interesting ideas, like shape-shifting reptilians being the ones that run your government, which is not the case. That's an astral symbol used to depict the fact that many of your politicians and members of government are operating from a state of fight or flight. They're using the reptilian brain. It doesn't mean they're actually reptiles. So there are many things we have observed the clairvoyance of your planet discussing that are, in a sense, literal translations of things that are designed to be interpreted symbolically. So we're not saying these types of technologies do not exist. We're not saying there are not underground arcs that are filled with energy and facets of information. All we are saying here is, instead of subscribing blindly to an external narrative someone you don't know has just put out, scan into it yourself. Develop your own psychic senses. Read into that reality. What do you get? What do you see? What do you feel? We encourage you, use the same attitude towards everything we say. Do not take everything we say at face value, or you will miss many of the things we are saying and many of the things we are not saying. See even our words as living symbols. This is how you free yourself of dogmatic programming that many of you have picked up from what you would describe as religious culture and religious institutions. For your ancestors, for the most part, have looked at sacred texts and have interpreted everything literally. And look at the chaos that has created on your planet. So evolve past this literal interpretation of everything you're given from the spiritual world. See it as a living symbol. It will serve you in a much more powerful way. We're not going to feed into any of those narratives because from our point of view, it's not necessarily useful. If you desire that kind of narrative, feed into it yourself. And before you feed into it, our suggestion would be really scan into it. Really read into that situation so you can know what it is rather than simply relying on secondhand information. So we thank you for your question.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next one. What is the color of middle C and the 7 notes above it?
One moment. In general, one moment. There are a few different color frequencies we are noticing here. There is a connection to the color frequency you would describe as green. There is also a connection to the color frequency you would describe as orange that are associated with this. One moment. One moment. In particular, red, red and orange are the strongest color translations of what you would call the C note and different gradations of the C note. Red and orange. Can you repeat the second part of this question?
What is the color of middle C and the 7 notes above it?
All right, what we will say is this. If you wish to understand the colors, just look at the charts that you have for your chakra system. For what you will find is that C in many ways has a chakra correspondence, and the other 6 notes also have one. And it flows largely like the following: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So follow the idea of the color code that is a part of your chakric systems. Now, with this being said, remember, that's just one interpretation. There are many different systems that correspond different color frequencies with different notes. That's one of the reasons why we gave a different answer at first, because depending on the system you're using, you will find there are different color correspondences for the same note. But in terms of the chakric color correspondences, red and orange are very much connected to middle C in that way. But that's not the only color correspondence. It all depends on the type of system you're working with.
Can you tell us more about the power of the neutral zone, the 0 point, and how we can tap in more often?
Well, through your breath, you can begin to access more of that neutral state. Many of you, when you are caught up in some type of bias, be it a positive bias or a negative bias, will have perhaps a stronger type of, you could say, unconscious effect on how you breathe. When you are very biased towards the positive, your breath pattern will change. When you are very biased towards the negative, your breath pattern will change. But when you take conscious control of your breath pattern and you slow it down, you begin to detoxify yourself of bias and you begin to enter in to more of a neutral space. So when you think of even, slow, relaxed breathing, emphasizing the breath retention process and breath subjugation process, you are then in more of a neutral state. You are in more of a vibrational middle zone that allows for you to see all things, positive, negative, and neutral, as being fundamentally equal. And from that place of equality, you can then develop what is described as clear discernment. So you can operate in your life in a way that represents your passion, your bliss, the path of your highest destiny. That's what the neutral zone allows for you to do. It allows you to develop clear discernment so you can see your path more obviously. The things that are a part of your path will stand out. The things that are not a part of your path will stand out in obviousness. So you can understand very clearly where to go and where not to go. So the idea is each day, spend some time doing what we have described as box breathing. You can start with 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, whatever's most comfortable for you. Don't push yourself. But the idea is do a 6-second inhale. Hold the breath for 6 seconds. 6-second exhale. Hold the breath out or subjugate the breath for 6 seconds. 6 also represents in many ways a type of neutral zone. It represents what you call the hexagram, the 2 triangles that intersect and meet in the center, blending both up and down, light and dark, male, female, positive, negative, Shiva Shakti. That's the power of the hexagram. So when you involve the number 6 into the box breathing, you are imposing that type of geometry into your consciousness, which will also help you access that neutral ground, that middle zone, where opposites can unify, where positive and negative can merge and create something entirely new. So the breath here will be your guide in particular. Do your best to remain relaxed as you do this. Don't focus too hard. Don't try too hard. The key is to do less than you think you need to do. Really let go. Be lazy with it if you wish, and simply breathe and count. And this will allow for you to access more of that neutral zone. At a certain point in the exercise, you will stop identifying with your thoughts. You will become more of what we have described as the archetype of the witness or the observer. And it will be as if you're able to watch your thoughts. It will be like you are on the outside looking in at your mental processes. When you're at that place where you're watching yourself, you're observing yourself, that's when you're in the neutral state. And we will be explaining that more in depthly during the upcoming transmission, because it's that neutral state that takes you to a level that is beyond belief systems. And we'll be showing you all how to access that in very deep ways in the transmission on the 30th.
And I think this will be a last question.
All right.
Will manifesting a specific behavior from someone be a violation of their free will?
Well, the idea is that it can manifest as a violation of free will, but it does not have to manifest as a violation of free will. It really depends on the intention that you hold when you use that type of energy. And if you are, in a sense, attempting to guide somebody with energy in a direction that does not represent their highest destiny, then the idea is it's more likely that that is coming from a place of violation. It doesn't always mean that, but it may mean that. So it's important to be transparent with yourself and honest with yourself. If you are assisting someone with energy in the background in a way that assists them in becoming their best self, their highest self, that assists them in fulfilling their destiny and following their passion, no, that has nothing to do with violating free will, because they have come to Earth for that experience. It's just that they have forgotten and they have gotten wrapped up in different types of cycles that, in a sense, seem like distractions from that path of self-realization. So if you are using energy to assist someone in fulfilling their destiny in that way and acquiring the tools and resources and experiences needed to help them on that journey, we would not consider that to be a violation at all. That's a compliment. That's a gift. If you are using energy to try to get someone to do something that perhaps has nothing to do with that, that's where we would encourage you to exercise some caution, because that could translate as a form of manipulation. Not always, though. It's important to take these things on a case-by-case basis. Your own self-honesty, your own transparency will assist you all in understanding really what it is you're trying to accomplish through that type of energetic working. And you may find you don't really need to do energetic workings to achieve that type of thing. There may be other ways of achieving that. So with energy, be mindful with how you use it, because it is quite powerful. And as you know, it does create the physical reality. So when you go altering someone's energy, you are altering things that will manifest in a particular way. So be discerning with what you do. Be discerning with the motivations you use. Be discerning with how you do it. So that's up to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And it's already 2:00 your time.
All right. We thank you all so much for this exciting co-creative interaction together this day of your time. And as always, our species, unconditional love and appreciation to each and every single one of you. We look forward to working with you all on March 30th at 12 p.m. Going Beyond Belief Systems.